We're joined by Lee
Thank you.
Feldman. He's the co-founder of Bycs, an Amsterdam-based organization that has a mission to push cycles in our cities. Thanks very much, Lee, for being with us. I think it's fantastic to be able to bike as much as people, say, in Europe do. But what would you tell people in, say, India who would say that, look, it's so hot that we need to be practical? I mean, it's just too hot to cycle all the time. What is your answer to them?
Right. Well, the first thing is just understanding a little bit of the historical context of cycling in a place like Amsterdam, where I live. Almost 50 years ago, cars dominated, and the entire city was choked by cars, which meant that city planners leveled all the trees, they covered over the canals, they handed over the city to cars. And at that time, a few really active mothers, mostly, started to protest and said, you know, this is enough. Cars are killing our children. They're killing us as we try to take our children to school. And that was the beginnings of the shift that happened to prioritize the bicycle as the primary mode. And ultimately what happened was cities started to give more space to bicycles and less space to cars. And what happened after that was, because bicycles take up less space than cars in cities, they were able to plant more trees. There were more greenways. The trees offered more shade. So, you know, we don't have hot summers like you do in India. But, you know, it does get hot here. It gets over 30 degrees, 35 degrees some days. And the trees offer some real shade. Now, if you have modern cities like you do in India that are completely paved over, that don't have a lot of tree cover, it is going to be very uncomfortable to ride your bicycles there. And so one thing I say is, make way for bicycles, make way for more shade giving, make way for a much more comfortable way of riding and being on a bicycle in cities.
Right, Lee. I think we have a lot more that we'd like to ask you, but I'd like to also now go across to Swati Thiyagarajan, environment reporter and someone who's a former colleague of ours here at NDTV. And Swati, you've been reporting on the environment for decades. And, you know, you always to report about how it's disturbing the environment, how it's going to come back, and there are going to be repercussions. And I really feel this time with this pandemic, we should realize this. There are repercussions to the disturbance, you know, that and the impact that we've had on the environment.
Absolutely, Gargi. And since you've done many of the stories with me, you know, and we've spoken about this a lot, that is fact. So just from in the 5 weeks of lockdowns, just if you take India, for example, what you've seen, the Dhauladars visible from Jalandhar, some part of the Himalayas visible from Saharanpur. The Ganga, the water in Rishikesh and Haridwar in certain areas have actually been certified as drinkable by the Pollution Control Board. The Yamuna in Delhi city flowing without that almost radioactive sludge on its surface, and blue skies, and your AQI showing you numbers of 25 and 30 for PM 2.5 when it should be over 100 at this time of the year. And we've seen properly hazardous air quality. And what that has shown very, very clearly is that industrial activity, number one, and our own human carbon footprint, these two factors have actually done all the damage that we see in a big way. So I think there is no more hiding behind any kind of excuses or any kind of we can't do this and we can't do that when it comes to really making your policy and your regulations and your law very, very strong when it comes to giving industries permissions. You know, get your environmental clearances right, get your green clearances right, look at what the impact of projects going to have on the environment. There's no more hiding from that, because this is just way too evident. That lax laws when it came to pollution control and pollution, and lax laws when it came to how industries functioned and how not much penalization happened, and also our own lifestyles. It's not just industry, it's us. urban lifestyles, the kind of damage we've caused, I don't think we can hide from that anymore. And I think, if anything, this should teach us that we have to have stringent laws in place which need to be followed to maintain these gains that we've made. Because if at the end of lockdown everybody rushes out of the gate like race horses trying to make up for lost time, then we're going to be back to square one very, very quickly.
बिल्कुल स्वाति, आपने अपनी बातें हमसे शेयर करी, बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया।